So much so that she gave us an ability to at least have what was happening absorbed powerfully, standing the most of any other state senator. We have been shamed across America. We have been called shameless. And so I thought it was important today, having been in New York and hugged my former colleague, now the governor of New York, Governor Harpo, who after I left from the 9/11 ceremonies, I'd like to thank Governor that I inspired you because we talked about the bill. My sister Congress people in New York had a press conference. Oh my goodness. I broke down again. A press conference to be the wind beneath the wings of women in Texas. They pointed to us and said, the governor of the state, and said to us that if you need a place to come, not only will we open our doors to those who are desperate for a medical decision that they don't want to have to make, and that we will provide you with resources so that you can get here and get this procedure. It was a week before, as I left for the 9/11 ceremonies, again painful having been in the United States Capitol on that day. Before I left, I drafted a bill recognizing this unspeakable law. I'm here in the African American community at Setagast because as the Latinx and the African American community, we have had the lowest access to health care. And I wanted to be right here so you could get the impact, Governor Abbott, of what you're doing to cause the potential loss of life. And anybody who's read the history books, who has in fact lived it, I did. When sisters of mine, meaning friends, used the coat hanger, when people were found in back alleys who did not make it, because they were using, before Roe v. Wade, an unfortunate process in order to be able to not carry the child of a rape or incest. Even mothers who have daughters who are counseling them are now without any resources. What are we doing in the state of Texas? So I simply want to read these words. I don't know if you all remember a governor called Clements. I think we were shocked then. Said might as well just, in a rape situation, lay down and enjoy it. My God, has he ever walked in our shoes? Does he even know what this preciousness that God has given women? Does he know the preciousness of our lives? And so it baffles me, Senator Alvarado. I'm sure you were not in the room, and probably the doors were locked because I didn't see any woman in the room. It looked so frightening I could barely comprehend it. But here are the words that were said, that were heard not around the nation but around the world. Let's make something very clear. Rape is a crime. And Texas will work tirelessly to make sure that we eliminate all rapists from the streets of Texas by aggressively going out and arresting them and prosecuting them and getting them off the streets. I'm going to have to say that again because the mic was not up. Let's make something very clear. Rape is a crime, and Texas will work tirelessly to make sure that we eliminate all rapists from the streets of Texas by aggressively going out and arresting them and prosecuting them. Of course, we all understand the court system and the legal system. It is not random. One is convicted and prosecuting them and getting them off the streets. So goal number one in Texas, the state of Texas, eliminate rape so that no woman, no person shall be a victim of it. Governor Abbott, is this a man that lives in reality? I joined him in that effort. From the centuries, we have been the victims of rape. Afghan women are, in fact, brutalized. and raped if they are not in accordance. You go to any country and you'll find human rights abuses that deal with rape and incest. Just this past week, I sent out a tweet. I couldn't take it anymore. For one more child rape in India. I'm begging that country. They have been raping those women and those girls brutally for centuries. So today I'm standing with some outstanding leaders that will come to you. And as they come, I will finish with the fact that I introduced the Preventing Vigilante Stalking That Stops Women's Access to Health Care and Abortion Rights of 2021. It is a simple bill. The crux of what we understand that is so unique about the Texas law is that they thought they were so creative to take the abuse out of government because they thought that was a direct nexus to Roe v. Wade under the Constitution. But we've got something for them. This is unconstitutional. But what I wanted to have as a partner to the codification of Roe v. Wade, which we will do this week, is to indicate, and the FACE Act, which is a little different, is to indicate that you bounty hunters, you folks standing outside of dorm rooms or standing down the street from Planned Parenthood, who get a bead on someone, and then you start walking to assure that you have gotten a gold mine by following this woman who now can't go to Planned Parenthood, and then causing your richness by getting $10,000. A bounty on the head of women, not on the rapists, not on the incest, but a bounty on women and providers. Has anyone heard of anything so outrageous? This federal law to make it illegal for you to stalk anyone in order to prevent them from access to health services and abortion rights. You would come under the federal anti-stalking law, be subject to incarceration, because that is what you deserve. Again, Senator Alvarado, it is called the Preventing Vigilante Stalking That Stops Women's Access to Health Care and Abortion Rights. And we are gratified of those who will be working with us. It is under the Crime Subcommittee. We're going to continue to work to get its presence going forward, but we are going to be sure to show. I just have to have these moved closer because I can't. We want to make sure people understand what stalking is. My bill does not require violence to occur. It just shows that you have the intent to get that bounty and you are stalking a woman. You are creating a credible fear. You are creating intimidation. A credible fear, intimidation, and that woman goes back home. She does not continue to do what is her constitutional right. With that in mind, I look forward to my colleagues helping me with this legislation. Abortions have plummeted in Texas. Oklahoma, Planned Parenthood, and other agencies surrounding us have had their increase from Texas multiply over and over again. Desperate women who are just looking for a chance to make their own healthy decision. And Governor Hochul, my friend, slams the appalling abortion law. But right now, I know that these leaders will be here not to forget and not to give up on these women who are crying out for our relief. May I introduce first Senator Carol Alvarado, my friend and neighbor, but more importantly, a member of the State Senate who provided us with a stunning stunning fight against this abortion law by way of her standing in a state that may not be called that, rightfully so, filibuster, representing the state senator.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and I'm honored to be joining you. You have been a warrior for us on so many fronts because the legislature had to go and camp out in Congress. And we were there fighting voter suppression. Today we stand here fighting a different type of suppression on women. And people do say, what is going on down there in Texas? But thank God we've had leaders, warriors in the fight with us, like Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. So I'm so glad that you have introduced the resolution. I stand here in full support. You know, I think it's been a little over 10 years ago that I stood on the floor of the Texas House when Sid Miller, of all people, passed the bill, the sonogram bill. And I stood on the floor with the probe, really taking him to task, because he really didn't even know what his own bill did, and demonstrating as best I could on the floor what that sonogram bill did to women. And here we are, fast forward, yet another bill. And I'm just always amazed how they can keep coming up with so many things to harm women's right to choose, to have control over your own body. Something so fundamental. And so we stand here in opposing Senate Bill 8, criminalizing somebody who might drive a woman to a clinic. What about somebody who maybe provides a list of providers? Are they a criminal too? We know that this law is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court ruled in Roe v. Wade that access to abortion is a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution. And what Texas Republicans have done, they have violated our Constitution. So don't stand on one platform about holding up the Constitution and yet on another ripping it apart at the cost of women's health. This law, it lacks exemptions for rape, for incest, and I don't want to hear men talking about how they're going to go out and get every rapist. You know, actually it was my colleague in the House, Victoria Niave, who actually did something about the backlog of rape kits. So this cowboy kind of attitude just doesn't fly with us. The law inaccurately uses the term fetal heartbeat. An ultrasound does show electric activity in an embryo's forming heart structure around 6 weeks. But this is not a heartbeat that pumps blood. So, I am glad that once again our leaders in Congress are going to step in just like they did with the voter suppression bill. And they're going to stand in again for us when it comes to protecting women's rights. We cannot allow this to continue. I'm so disappointed that it started here in Texas, because we're going to see a ripple effect across the country. And people laughed. And people, during the 2016 election, when we said, many of us told people, be careful. Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade, and here we are today. So I am so grateful, Congresswoman. Thank you for filing the resolution. Thank you for your leadership. And thank you to all these women, our local elected officials, our activists, our young activists, providers, and so on. So we do appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. 2 points that the senator made. It has already started a ripple effect. They have been calling Texas state governors, Republican governors, and asking for the bill, and then they have completely ignored what the senator said about the Constitution. It is the Ninth Amendment, which Roe v. Wade was based upon. Case came right out of Austin, Texas, Sarah Weddington, and we prevailed because the court knows that you cannot abrogate the Ninth Amendment, your right to privacy. I think Planned Parenthood knows that well, and I'm delighted to have Kathy Blueford-Daniels and as well Councilmember Jackson. We're in her district, and we're in Kathy Blueford-Daniels' district. We'll have them come as we finish, and we thank them for their presence. But I know that Planned Parenthood has seen this. We have grown up together in essence, and we did prevail on providing the health procedure, the life-saving procedure of what was labeled as partial birth abortion to save the lives of women. Thank you, and Angel, we ask you to come now. Angel Johnson.
Thank you, Congresswoman. We really, really appreciate you always standing up for the women of Texas so that they can get the health care that they rightfully deserve. And let's be clear today, abortion is health care. And women should have access to that health care without any fear of being stalked, of any fear of their Uber driver being sued, any fear of someone and stalked, any fear of someone who they talk to about their choices being sued, any of their family being sued, their abusive partner suing them. They shouldn't have any fear of them. So we're really grateful that you're introducing this resolution to stand by Texas women. We know we've been hearing the story since September 1st. Our patients have been coming in tearful, afraid, and our staff have been thoroughly afflicted by this because they've had to turn these patients away. They're having to go out of state, and that comes with challenges. You know, it's not simply just getting in your car and driving. There are things that need to be considered, such as child care. And many women don't have access to child care, right? They can't take out their jobs and just go to California, Nevada, New Mexico to receive the services that they need, right? So we have been, it's been a whirlwind. This bill is very harmful. I want to be clear. It's very harmful to our patients and the women here in Texas. They don't have the right, essentially, to choose the health care that they deserve. And so I want to thank our state senator, also, Carol Alvarado, for always standing with us as well and being on that floor and fighting. And we will continue to fight. We will continue to fight for our patients. We will continue to fight for the women to have health care, the access to the health care that they deserve, so that they can make their own choices for their bodies. Men no longer need to be making these choices. We will no longer stand for that. So we hope you all will join us in the fight. We hope that you'll be with us. We hope that you will call your state senator, your state representative. We hope that you will call your congresswoman and your congressman and let them know that this will not happen anywhere else. And this needs to be repealed in Texas. Thank you.
I'm glad to announce that the U.S. Department of Justice, at the urging of the women and women leaders in the United States Congress, has already filed with the litigants, like Planned Parenthood, who were the groups, as we have called them, were the first to rush in and unfortunately labeled the Supreme Court with that dastardly decision on the basis of lack of standing when they know that they had all of the appropriate legal ramifications to be able to issue a stay. They did not, which in essence just gave a hand of approval, temporary hand of approval. That's the worst thing that could have been done. That caused the surge of other governors calling in. But I do want you to know that the Biden administration obviously strongly stands with women, and the U.S. Department of Justice have already filed their case. I am dumbfounded, and I want to say this, because we have respect for the courts. They are co-equal branches of government. For someone who knows this is an emergency, a jurist, to set it for 2 weeks baffles me. And so we will have a hearing in 2 weeks. I guess it's shortened now, but the Justice Department is committed to taking it all the way to the Supreme Court. But we know that women are so much in need at this time. I'm very proud to have had the privilege of serving on the Houston Area Women's Center Board and see the women that they help who are victims of domestic violence. Can you imagine? And then you're pregnant, or find out you're pregnant with an abuser, and what are you supposed to do? These are challenging times. So I'm delighted to have Emily Whitehurst, of the CEO and president of the Houston Area Women's Center.
Thank you, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. We are so delighted. And if I can get you back on that board, I will. Just tell me when you're ready. Thank you, Senator Tyrone Alvarado. We so appreciate your advocacy. It is an honor and a delight to be here, but I am very saddened by the circumstances. The Houston Area Women's Center serves as the city's primary rape crisis center. We have a 24-hour hotline where sexual assault survivors call us. They come in all ages, all sizes, all shapes, all walks of life. But what I want you to know is that most are calling because they've been assaulted by someone they know. And I want you to imagine being on the receiving end of that call and being worried that this is somebody who's faking it and trying to catch you, and they're telling you they're pregnant, and you now are in a position of trying to provide crisis intervention counseling, worried that you're getting trapped by a vigilante interested in making a buck. Our service delivery model has been utterly compromised by a law that did not put the interests of survivors front and center. I want you to know, we believe anybody who wants to choose an abortion has access to it, should, but we are outraged that this law did not put an exception for survivors of rape and incest. So both things can be true. And the fact that this law did not make an exception, and this law basically makes abortion untenable and unavailable, because nobody, for all practical purposes, figures out that they're pregnant after 6 weeks and can navigate all that's involved. That's very challenging. So most women now in this state don't have access. And if they are survivors of rape and incest, they really cannot access that very much needed and deserved service. And a law that doesn't center survivors of rape and incest is abusive. And it compounds the trauma that these women have already endured. And it is wrong. It is just wrong. And we are heartbroken by it. We see survivors who are children, who've been abused by someone they know, who end up pregnant and now have no recourse. They have no recourse. That is happening today in this state and is now going to be duplicated across this country. We're the Houston Area Women's Center. We run a sexual assault hotline, and today, people who are being victimized and end up pregnant have no recourse in this state. Nobody should rest until this situation is changed. There should be no rest. This is not right. It should not stand. And the fact that a law like this was passed by men who think they are standing up for the rights of rape survivors is just sickening. It is sickening. So let us put the survivors first. Let us put their needs first. And if we do that, laws like this will not get passed. It's very clear. But you can't pass a law like this and then pretend you're standing up for rape survivors. That we will not abide. So on behalf of the Houston Area Women's Center, we are here for this fight. We are here for the long haul. We will stand up for our clients. We will stand up for survivors. And we will not rest until this law is repealed.
I'm going to, before Amber Moffman comes, how old is the Houston Area Women's Center?
Next year's 45 years.
45 years of service. And has anyone ever been able to eliminate rape and incest in your 45 years?
I think we got close one day. But so far, not yet.
Not yet. And so you still get daily calls of people with sexual
Go
assault.
to the hospital. We accompany people to the hospital, and it's a tragic aspect of our culture. It's not something that we are committed to ending, like the governor. That's our vocation and our call. But I hesitate to say that it's not going to get done today or tomorrow. In the meantime, our clients need us.
Before you leave the mic, would you give, I want women that will see this still have hope. Do you have a number?
Yeah, but not yet. I don't have a top of my head.
We'll get you back up.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave this conference with hope. And we're going to leave this conference with numbers. So you come back with that number. Because I want to make sure I'm giving my office number. How old the Planned Parenthood is at least 100 years old. So Angel, have you all, you're not 100, but have you seen rape eliminated in 100 years?
No, I have not, unfortunately.
Or incest?
No to that.
One thing, thank you. One thing that was said that was very important, and I'll yield.
713-528-RAPE. 713-528-7273.
And these agencies coordinate with each other. So calling the Houston Area Women's Center gets coordinated to Planned Parenthood. We don't want you to see this without hope. If you're in a situation, please do not handle it on your own. Try to reach out to these organizations that are prepared to be of help to you, because we're going to leave you with hope. We're not going to leave poor women of color who particularly don't have a private provider and have gone to Planned Parenthood, have sought information from Houston Area Women's Center, which we provide information to, and so we want them to know that. Thank you so very much. Thank you. The one thing that Emily said is she talked about survivors who are constantly intimidated. That survivor is a survivor of the violence. Then they have to deal with the aftermath. And then they have a vigilante who is following the car, being outside their house, if somebody has indicated. We don't know how information is going to be transmitted, if that person is going for an abortion. Or I believe my wife that I abused, I think she might be going to get an abortion. Here's her name. Did they know that when they wrote the law? Did they think angels walk on earth? And that no one will be subject to abusing this law? And then you say that a woman is so unvalued that you give $10,000. I'm not saying that's not a lot, but that's devaluing a woman. But there will be a lot of people standing up, vigilantes, stalkers, that will be standing in line saying, send me. I want to thank Governor Hochul for offering to find resources to get women from this state to a place of relief. I'm delighted to have Amber Moston and her very tall daughter. Amber has stood on the side of the rights of the defeated, the unempowered. She's in a group of people that I love, personal injury and trial lawyers, really because they do go to those who just simply cannot help themselves. And she doesn't know I tapped her to look into this resource question because we don't want to be down here in Texas not having the opportunity to help those who are going to be going forward as long as we have this bill. It could be tomorrow that someone needs help. To be desperate without us as women standing here saying that we are ready to help. I'm delighted to have Amber Moston.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And I was honored to be invited, but more honored to hear you call me friend, and to be on the sidelines with you for these many years now, and with you, Senator Alvarado. I remember watching you brandish that sonogram on the House floor. And I think many of those men were horrified. They had no idea that that thing gets stuck somewhere. Yeah. So I'm Amber Moston. I'm a lawyer here in Houston. I'm a former chair of Annie's List and an advocate for and a donor to reproductive rights organizations and reproductive justice organizations. I'm here with my daughter Ava Mostyn. She's 14. So you can imagine that this conversation is extremely relevant in my household. My daughter and her friends have talked a lot about this bill and what it means for them, their generation, their friends, and what they can possibly do if they have a friend in trouble. You know, this law is the most restrictive law in the United States.
Yes.
It is effectively a ban on abortions. If you know anything about the biology, which I'm sorry, Senator Alvarado, it sounded like a lot of your colleagues did not know anything about biology. But it really is an effective ban on abortion. You know, the day that this bill went into law, we heard the stories. The 13-year-old who'd been raped, who could not access abortion because it's the day, September 1st, the day the law went into effect. We heard the stories of thousands of women traveling to other states, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, California, and I'm very thankful to Governor Holcomb, but New York. Now, those are the fortunate ones. Those are the folks who had the money, the resources, the wherewithal to travel to another state. And I've talked to my daughter and her friends. You know, we have the wherewithal. We've got the resources. Her friends, if they ever were in a situation where they needed access to health care, whether they needed an abortion, for whatever reason, they would be able to get it. But that's not the way it is for so many of our sisters. Right, Congresswoman? Poor women of color, disproportionately affected by this law. So I'm here today to encourage folks. I've been getting calls from friends across Texas, friends across the country, who are saying, what can we do to help? We want to donate our airline miles. You know, they're trying to come up with ways that they can get in this fight with us, that they can help us get our rights back down here in Texas. And you know, one thing I think you said it, Senator Alvarado, and you did too, Congresswoman. What happens in Texas does not stay in Texas. This is coming to a state near you, perhaps your own. So get in this fight with us. There's already fights going on in the courts. Thank you, Planned Parenthood. Thank you to the Department of Justice. Those fights will need to be funded. They need money, right? There will be the candidates coming up in 2022 who will need your money and, more importantly, your time. They will need you out there supporting them, but they need to know that this is important to you, that this is your issue.
That's right.
So to all of our friends across Texas and across the country, make sure that your elected officials and that your candidates know that this issue is going to motivate you. Pregnant people deserve access to health care.
That's right.
Abortion is health care.
That's right.
And they deserve that, and you'll be voting on that. So I encourage all the folks who can, in the immediate, the problem we have right now, while we're letting those fights go through the courts, while we're trying to support our candidates who are going to stand up for us and get rid of this bill, we need to help the woman who is standing there today.
That's right.
The college girl who's working 2 jobs to put herself through college. She cannot afford to have a child now. Whatever the situation may be, the family who has 3 kids right now and both parents are working 2 jobs and they cannot afford a 4th child. Whatever the situation may be, those women who do not have the funds to go get child care, to figure out how they're going to pay to travel to another state, to pay for the hotel room when they get there and the meals that they need while they're on the road, and to cover the cost of the money that they lost while they were supposed to be working for the 3 to 4 days that it took to do this. So I'm here to encourage everyone to donate to a consortium of Texas funds that are getting money together to provide direct benefit to women right now who cannot afford on their own to travel out of state. It's a Band-Aid. It's definitely a Band-Aid. But until we can get this law repealed in the courts and at the ballot box, it's all we have right now. That organization or that website is Act Blue, so ACTBLUE.com, actblue.com/donate/TX funds. So that's Texas TX funds. actblue.com/donate/TX funds. That is where I'm telling all my friends who are calling me, and I'm going to encourage everybody, get in the fight with us to get our rights back by donating what you can to those organizations, donating what you can to Planned Parenthood's fight, donating to support the candidates and elected officials who stay in this fight with us day in, day out. And you all know it's here, but I want to make sure everybody out there knows that this is literally the hardest working woman in politics. I'm sorry, Senator Alvarado. And so we need to match her energy in this fight. Again, it's actblue.com/donate/TX funds. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, Congresswoman. I really appreciate it.
Questions shortly, but I want to make sure that I thank Ms. Turner, who's a facilitator here, and she got in the line, and I really appreciate you because I know that you are with us, are you not? You are with us. You are with us. I want Planned Parenthood to give their number because I wanted to make sure as we present our other elected officials that there is hope. Give that number, please.
That number is 1-800-230-PLAN. 1-800-230-PLAN.
And we have a small staff, but they're a powerful staff. They're going to fall on the floor as soon as I say 713. You're going to hear 655-0050. Just get ready to answer the phone. No, we're not there the weekend right now. Probably our voicemail will be overwhelmed, but we will be available so we can shuttle off to people because I want you to have hope. I'm so glad that Senator Alvarado used Survivor and they used Uber and Lyft because when this federal stalking bill, you could be stalking in your car, watching a car of 3 women and someone passing through, and you are violating, hopefully, the federal law. But we hope we will find this bill unconstitutional, but in the meantime, we've got to rise to the occasion. Rise to the occasion. So that's why we're here today, that we're giving you hope. 713-655-0050 is my number, and you have the other numbers. I'm delighted to have Councilmember Jackson here, who has certainly been a fighter as well for protecting families. We're in my district. It's heavily African American and Latinx, and so we're delighted.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And thank you again, Congresswoman, for your leadership. We really appreciate you, moving forward with this resolution, this new bill that's going to tackle this bill that Texas just passed that actually attacks the rights of women. Also to the women who's standing here, beautiful woman, I'm honored to be with you. But I stand here as a mother of 2 young men. And when I decided to have my young men, it was my decision. And it was a proud decision. My second pregnancy, I suffered from toxemia. And toxemia is a blood poisoning, and it hits our black communities very hard. I mean, high blood pressure, diabetes is a risk factor for this disease. Just a few risk factors. But my doctor told me that I needed to, he actually recommended that I do not have any more children. So I decided to get my tubes tied to protect my life, because I nearly died during this pregnancy. And so what was in the back of my mind the whole time was the fact that my mother, she got her tubes tied as well. And she still wound up having her 16th child after getting her tubes tied. So since this law went into effect, I'm asking myself, what would I have done? If it was in effect back then, what would I have done if I would have got pregnant? What would I have, but it would have been my choice. And every woman should have their own choice. Motherhood is hard, it's tough, You know, pregnancy is hard and it's tough, and we don't need laws like this to put extra pressure on women that are already having a tough time carrying a baby, especially if they're having a risk, the pregnancy is a high-risk pregnancy. And so these laws is going to tackle women of color in low-income communities. And so I stand firm, I stand 100% committed to work with Congresswoman Lee and all the women to fight this law, because it's not right. It's an attack on women, and it's an attack on women's rights, and I will not stand for it. So thank you, Congresswoman, again for stepping up, and I'm here. I'm gonna be a voice for my people, because I know this is serious. It's serious and it's dangerous, and I will not stand for it. They're gonna bring out the bull at me. I'm a Taurus, and so they don't want to bring out this bull, but it's eventually gonna come out. So again, thank you, Congresswoman, and we're gonna fight this. Thank you.
What a powerful story. That's so important for people to hear it. We're in Settegast because we're all in Northeast Houston. We're as much concerned about Southeast and Southwest and Northwest. But our communities are not able to speak for themselves. And we appreciate your eloquence. Kathy Daniels, obviously we have to take care of our children. And we want to make sure that they're safe. And that's what you're doing. And I'm delighted that you're here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman. This lady's always on the front line. I'm so glad to see so many strong women standing in solidarity. So if you don't cut anything else, if you cut anything else out of this picture, make sure you show the strength of these women standing together in solidarity. It was asked recently, with everything going on, just like on national television, talking about Texas. We used to always say, I'm proud to be a Texan. We used to hear that everywhere. Someone asked just recently, how proud are you to be a Texan? Governor Abbott, this is not a game of operation. This is not a game. These are our bodies. Let us make the decision. My mother raised 9. She had 10, Patrick, as a single mother. And it was difficult. It was very, very difficult. We had people come over on Christmas to bring us toys because there wasn't enough money in the family. But I come from those meager means. And I'm proud to say that I've been blessed. And I want to stand strong and be a voice and a blessing for others. I was a single parent for a very, very long time as well. And I have O neg blood with RH factor, which means the body automatically aborts your babies. Automatically, yes. And so if you don't get a shot within a certain period of time, then you won't, in most instances, you probably will not have any more children. God bless me 10 years later to have my son. My daughter and my son are 10 years apart. But that was my choice. I kept wishing and praying for another child. That was my choice. Nobody can make those decisions for us. No man should be making those decisions for us. I just wonder sometimes as I look at those press conferences and I look at the floor and Senator Carol Everetta, how proud those guys, the men on the floor, how proud their mamas are of them. Not their mothers, their mamas. How proud could they be of the decisions that they're making? And so I ask, because we know that women are the strength of this nation, I ask those wives of those people making those decisions to use pillow talk, whatever you have to use, to let your spouses, your significant other know that these are bad, bad bills. Nobody, no one should be trying to influence and tell us what to do with our bodies. They've been practicing, waiting on this opportunity to chip away at Roe v. Wade. Chip away with it. And just like so many have said, it's going to be ongoing because it's going to come all across the United States. Why does Texas have to be the one that set the precedent? We don't mind being first in a lot of things, but an abortion ban? We ask everyone to stand in solidarity. I don't know if we're going to do pink hats this year or what, but we're going to have to do something to show that women who are the major voters in this state are not going to tolerate this. So thank you all for coming out, and thank you very much. Thank you, Congresswoman.
Let me conclude, and I hope the gentleman may have questions, but let me conclude with courtesy, understanding. I'm so glad they're survivors. Many of these women are wives and have had husbands, beloved husbands that they have loved and some lost. So we acknowledge the men who stand with us. We are ashamed that the men that drew others in to pass that bill did not maybe speak to women who, because there were women there, but it did not speak to those who could understand the very personal nature of this medical decision. So personal that we live through an era of coat hangers. They were willing to take a chance on their life because they just didn't know where to go. And they were found dead in alleys. I don't know if people remember that. Or botched because of unlicensed persons who didn't know what, and they were found dead. Led to them. I don't know when that signature went on that piece of paper. Did that consciously seep into the signer's mind, arm, hands, and fingers as they signed that bill? And then I'm so glad that my women of diversity, all colors here, my Anglo sisters, understand the plight of women of color. That's right. Who live in this Settegast area, Northeast, or live in the East End. Not everyone is for this action, and we are not standing here as abortionists. None of us has performed an abortion. That's right. We're standing here as people of choice to allow a healthy decision to be made. What else you missed is when we have to find resources to get the woman or girl, she may go without any support system. That's right. It may be so desperate that grandma has to stay and watch the children. That's right. Or there's no money to send the person that they are comforted by. So this is a dastardly circumstance, and I just want to read this last reality. Paper reports that the Oklahoma Clinic has received more than double its number of typical inquiries, 2/3 of them from Texas. A Kansas clinic is anticipating a patient increase of up to 40% based on calls from women in Texas. A Colorado clinic that already has started seeing more from other states was preparing to ramp up supplies and staffing in anticipation of the law's effect. Our women are desperate, and they are fleeing. And so today we came to, one, let them know that there are women and organizations that have not forgotten them. We've given you the numbers. We want you to take advantage of it. I want to leave this podium to say, don't do this alone. Don't feel that you have nowhere to go. Don't do anything drastic. Don't go somewhere that is not safe. I want you to save your life. And I want you to make the right decision. And in making that decision, you must consult with, find people who you can consult with besides your faith, your family. Don't do whatever decision you make. And this is not a pressure cooker here. It's for people to make the decision that they want to make. I want the governor and all those who sign, no, we don't stand around saying, go, go, go. We are women. We understand what this means. Just talk to a woman who's had a miscarriage and see the pain that she experiences. So we just want to be constitutional in this state, not unconstitutional. We want Roe v. Wade, the law of the land under the 9th Amendment, to be upheld and recognized and respected. It has done no damage to this nation. We can't see it. I'm very glad that we have lifted as Democrats the Hyde Amendment, which precludes Medicaid from being used for poor women. And so fleeing the state, calling clinics, having no resources is what we have been relegated to. We're the state with the highest uninsured. We're the state with the highest number of COVID-19 cases. We're the state with continuing deaths every day from unvaccinated persons or people dying from COVID Delta. We're the state where a governor stood up and banned school districts from wearing masks or having the children, the little precious children, wear a mask. And we're the state that is now the hardest to access health care and the hardest to vote. That's what we have right now. Texas is the hardest state in the nation to go vote, and it's the hardest state in the nation to be able to have access to health care. Our soldiers did not go on the battlefield to have their sisters and wives and grandmothers and mothers and all be denied health care. As you have heard from all of the speakers, we are united. We are not going to cease fighting. I'm going to work with Councilmember Jackson, maybe to have a statement at City Council. And we are grateful for Senator Alvarado, who did a magnificent job. I will take any questions at this time. With that in mind, let me simply say the last sentence. I couldn't stand here by not saying to the unvaccinated, please get vaccinated. The ICUs are full. I do an inventory of my hospital. There are high numbers of children who are now in the hospital in COVID units. There's a shortage of nurses, which is a terrible situation. And people with regular procedures are finding difficulty in getting hospital beds. We need you to get your first shot, and then your second shot. And then we will be able to return to a life that we love, the beauty of America. And then as we fight that, and those high numbers, Texas remains a red, not on politics, but on the map of COVID, they burst out with the highest numbers. And on the record of voting, we need to look forward to a tumultuous 2022. That is why we are fighting to get the John Robert Lewis bill and S1 H1. And then, for what we came here today, I want everybody to know, these women who have thousands standing behind them, we're not going to give up. We are not going to let our sisters suffer on their own. We're not going to let them be without. And you stalkers, you better watch out. That is an illegal act. And the federal law is going to make it more illegal by enhanced penalties. And yes, you can stalk an Uber or Lyft or friend or man or woman of faith taking someone. You can stalk. And we're not going to allow it by federal law. And so we hope that there will be continued support for the legislation. I want to make sure I read the exact title. As I do that, I want to make sure that we want to make sure that I thank Governor Hochul of New York for her generous offer. I'm not going to be someone who ignores that. And I want everyone to write and call to get Preventing Vigilante Stalking that Stops Women's Access to Health Care and Abortion Rights Act of 2021. They are vigilantes. They are a danger. They are frightening and intimidated, and they create a credible fear in women. We need your help, but you're not alone. Thank you all so very much. Let me thank you all, Ms. Turner. Thank you to the CEO and President, Amy Whitehurst of Houston Area Women's Center, and Joe Johnson, Planned Parenthood, Ava, as well. I just like to call her a tall daughter. Councilmember Jackson, and Trustee Kathy Buford Daniels. You see us, but there are thousands of women standing behind us, and I just have to pay attention to my Vietnam vet, because when he wore the uniform, he wore it for the beauty of this nation and the principles of democracy. Thank you all so very much.